Hello everybody, this video is for Monday, November 23rd, I think. Let me check my calendar. Yes, Monday, November 23rd. We are going to take notes today, so these are Notes 18, The Crusades. Notes 18, The Crusades. Crusades is a fancy word for Christian holy war. Christian holy war. There'll be 9 or 10, depending on who you ask and what you count, different holy wars where Christians are fighting Muslims for control of the Holy Land, also known as Jerusalem. So because we are in a more Christian country, call these the Crusades. That's very important to remember today because depending on where you live, these might not be the Crusades, but instead could be the Jihads. Jihad is the Arabic word for holy war. Same meaning, just a different group fighting it. So, Notes 18, the Crusades. I will tell you when you need to start writing these notes. The first part of today's notes are a review, and you don't have to write them down. But I do want to go over them again, just to, make sure we're all good on all this. So, again, Western Europe in the Middle Ages has fallen. The Roman Empire has fallen. There is no more literacy. The kingdoms are all divided. They have no unity, really. They have no common language. There's no cultural diffusion. They're not trading with each other. They are poor, living on feudal manners, and the only thing kind of connecting them is Christianity, right? The Franks and the Visigoths are going to be speaking different languages, okay? They're not really going to be trading with each other. They're right next to each other, but usually they're going to be at war with each other. They're not going to be buddy-buddy helping each other or anything like that. Literacy drops. Nobody's really reading or writing if you're a normal person. Your life is probably kind of awful. Moving right along. Again, you do not need to write this slide either. But how the Middle Ages are set up, people are barely able to survive. And what you have happening are a lot of different raiders going into these not very well protected areas and raiding them for everything they have and leaving. A big example of a group doing this is the Vikings. You've probably heard of them. They're even in purple, like the Minnesota Vikings. And they're out of Scandinavia here, and they're going to be sailing. We'll talk way more about the Vikings come a week from this video. All throughout Russia, England, over by Spain, they're in purple here. You then have the Muslim invader routes, so they're in Africa and the Middle East. They're coming and raiding. And then you have the Megara invasion routes. We don't really talk about them, but a lot of raiding. Not a whole lot of protection, not a whole lot of teamwork. Again, these little kingdoms, they're not coming together for a single cause yet. Feudalism offers some protection to all of this raiding. Still not great though. You have these landowning lords, and they have knights who are sworn to protect the manor. Not the best system, right? That's not some well-organized army, right? No. So if a well-organized army comes, those couple of knights a lord has, it's just not going to be all that helpful always. So yeah, they're there, they're sworn to protect, they're going to build up walls around their manor, they're going to do things to try to protect themselves, but it just doesn't always matter. So castles are built to help protect these lords and their peasants. There's still a lot of conflict, there's still a lot of fear happening in Europe at this time. You still don't need to write this down either. We already kind of talked about it. So medieval Europeans lived on these, again, self-sufficient manors. Everything they need is right here, self-sufficient. It allows peasants to farm the Lord's land in exchange for a fraction of that food and a place to live. Not the worst system. Not that great either. So they're going to work all day, mainly just producing grains, get to live there, work there, not die, hopefully. Okay. So this is where you should start writing these notes. Okay, those first 5 slides were a review. What we have here, though, besides feudalism and the manorial system, there's one other thing that is very, very important to life in the Middle Ages. We talked about it on Wednesday's notes, and you can see it here as well. So I'll go all Dora Explorer on you. What do you see? That's right, the church. The church, the medieval church, is going to be this unifying system in Europe at the time. So, while feudalism divides people, the manor system divides people, Christianity unifies the medieval people. In large part because if you weren't Christian, you aren't going to be there. Everybody is following this common religion, and that unifies people to a single cause. Right? We looked at that map of all of the different kingdoms. They're all warring each other. That is not stability. So what is a bit of stability is the fact that the medieval church is able to unify people under the shared belief of Christianity. So their role in this. Roman Catholicism is a dominant religion in Western Europe during the Middle Ages. Everybody follows Roman Catholicism. I know you guys are used to now all sorts of different denominations, whether it be Methodist, Pentecostal, Wesleyan, Catholic, Quakers, the list is endless, Baptists, long list. At this time, that doesn't exist yet. We will talk about when that happens. It hasn't happened yet. Everybody is following the same church. I like to describe it as flavors of ice cream. Right now, you only have vanilla, okay? You can have vanilla with the Roman Catholic Church, or you can move to the Eastern Orthodox Church and have chocolate, but that's it. There's no sprinkles yet. There's no cookie dough, okay? Everybody is following this same religion. So, without any sort of common government among people, it's just a bunch of lords, a bunch of kingdoms. It's the Catholic Church that fills this void. They're going to be this important governing body in people's lives. So the Catholic Pope becomes the strongest political leader in the Western world. Political leader, not just religious leader. He is a very, very much this political figure who's going to be making these sorts of decisions about what people can and can't do, what sort of laws to follow. The Pope has so much power. One of the reasons for this is the Catholic Church, and a lot of churches, but especially the Catholic Church, has these things called sacraments, and they are spiritual rituals. Okay? Some of them are like baptism, marriage, anointing of the sick, confirmation, first communion. There's a list of them, right? They're also going to create a system of rules called the canon law that all Christians had to follow. This isn't crazy at this time. We just talked about this very, very powerful empire of Islam that has Sharia law, and that's working. What they were doing was working. They're this incredibly wealthy empire, so it's not a huge surprise that then Christianity is going to do basically the same thing and create a canon law that Christians will follow. The Pope also has the power again to excommunicate people, kick them out of the church, banish them from the church. If the only unifying thing in your life is Christianity, the only thing that ties you to other people, the only thing that lets you live where you live is Christianity, if you get kicked out of the church, if you get excommunicated, you almost might as well be sentenced to death. Right? You can't live anywhere in Europe. Nobody's going to accept you anymore. So that is a huge, huge power that the church has. Also, kings or lords who violated the Pope's canon law could face interdiction, which is a ban on religious service in the king's land. It works very, very similar to being excommunicated as a king or lord. Soak that in for a second. The Pope, the religious leader at the time, has the power to kick out a king. That's big time, right? That we don't hear that, right? The Pope now has no power to kick out a sitting president, to kick out a dictator, to kick out anybody. They don't have that power, right? They could say they don't like something that they did, but they don't have the power to to get rid of somebody's political power in that way. But at this time, the Pope does. When you're making the hierarchy, it's Pope, then king, then lord, then knight, then serf, right? The Pope is the overarching person. To show you just how big this is, because this isn't just some, oh, the canon law says he could do it, but it never really happens. No, it actually happens. So, this guy named King Henry and Pope Gregory have a disagreement. It's not a huge disagreement, but, you know, they're not overly happy with each other, so they have this disagreement. Pope Gregory issues an interdict, again, basically kicking King Henry out. He's getting rid of his job, saying, you are not part of the church anymore. That was so devastating to King Henry that in the snow, in the freezing cold, he got on his knees for 3 days and begged the Pope to forgive him. Wild, wild, wild. Literally, he is at the door of the Pope, on his knees, hands and knees, in the snow, begging because the Pope issued this interdict that systematically kicked him out of his job. Wild, wild things. So, you don't have to write all this. We've talked a lot about some of this. So each territory in medieval Europe has, again, this ordered manner. Priests control people's access to heaven. And that is never not important. Okay? Think of it this way. We've already talked about how terrible a serf's life is. Their life is just awful. Now, your only hope, if you are a Christian serf at this time, a Christian peasant, is that yes, the 35 years you have on this earth are probably going to be terrible. But your hope is that if you live right, and if you do what your local priest tells you to, you will go to heaven. And you're not going to be in the business of gambling with that, right? Your life on earth is terrible. Your hope is that in heaven will be better. So basically what happens is priests control people's access to this through the idea of delivering the sacraments and absolving their sins. That's a lot of power. A lot of power. They work so hard, and it's their salvation and obedience to the church that is going to get them to heaven, where they hope that this will all end, that they don't have to worry about anything anymore. Christians, we already talked about it when we talked about Islam, pay what's called a tithe. Tithe is usually 10% of your income going to the church. So while a lot of areas are on hard times, the church is getting about 10% of everybody's income. So it's powerful, it's wealthy, it has the ability to do things. All right, so why did Christians go to Jerusalem during the Middle Ages and do these crusades? Again, they're going to fight between 9 and 10, depending on who you ask, different crusades. These are just the first 4 crusades. You'll see first in purple, they're going to walk on over to Jerusalem. They're going to sail in some cases for like the 3rd crusade. You see, they're all going to Jerusalem to fight Islam. Why? It's just a city, right? It's just a city. It's just a city till it's not just a city. So what is Jerusalem? First off, to Muslims, to Islam, the city of Jerusalem is frequently regarded as a very, very holy place in their kind of stories. So they're what we would consider in Christianity Old Testament stories. Islam still reads those, right? Muslims still read those. So that's a part of this. Muhammad was purified before ascending into heaven in Jerusalem. Commonplace. Originally, the direction of Muslim prayer, Jerusalem. It's later switched more to the Kaaba. And last, Muhammad's last place that he went before ascending to heaven, Jerusalem. So it has this very strong, long religious tie for Islam. At the same time, for Christianity, it is frequently mentioned in Old Testament stories as a holy place. Also, when Jesus is a little boy, he goes there and preaches and basically tells everybody who's working there why they're wrong. He continually preaches there then as a man. It's the location of the Last Supper right before Jesus dies. And then it's also where his disciples, his followers, were on the night of Pentecost, when it's believed Jesus went into this room and talked to them. So Jerusalem has an incredible tie for both Islam and Christianity and Judaism. They're not as much part of these crusades, but it's also a major, major city today for Judaism, which creates even more problems. So this one city has a lot of meaning to the vast majority of people in the world, but they don't always get along. So what we have here, crusades. Pope Urban is going to issue a call for Christians to go fight a crusade, a holy war, to control the Holy Land, aka Jerusalem. So in 1095, the Islamic Empire invaded this city of Jerusalem. They take it over, right here. And basically Pope Urban is like, okay, we're going to raise an army, and we're going to go there, and we're going to fight. Now, here's the thing. Not everything's always as pure as it seems. Pope Urban is not a dumb guy. He realizes something. He goes, you know what? We have all of these kingdoms, okay, that all have this loyalty system. We have all of these lords that have this loyalty system. We have all of these knights, predominantly young men with nothing to do but go and fight their neighbors. What if, hear me out, we take all of that energy, all of these knights, all of these people that have issues, and we have them go fight together? And that's kind of what happens. So he calls for the first crusade for these Christians to go and basically walk to Jerusalem, in some cases sail, but mainly walk to Jerusalem and go fight against Islam to retake Jerusalem. Now, the First Crusade, while Christianity does kind of win out in it, it was kind of poorly planned. They let peasants go. However, they didn't equip them. So a lot of them went with like pitchforks and not actual armor or anything to really fight with. So that caused problems. The other thing is, you have all these people walking across this farmland. It destroyed a bunch of farmland. Then there was a bad harvest for the next like 2 years because of it. So not the best planned crusade in the world, but information moved slow in 1095. So again, Pope Urban's going to call it, Christians, far and wide, all you men, come, go to Jerusalem and fight. So over the next 300 years, Christians are going to fight Muslim armies in at least 9 different crusades. I'll talk to you in a second about why I say 10 sometimes. But 9 different crusades over 300 years being fought over this city of Jerusalem. So why do they go? Again, the Pope wanted to unite Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodox Christians, and regain the Holy Land from Muslims. Also, so that's one reason, right? Pope called for this to happen. Now, he even said he'd absolve people's sins if they went. So that's a big pull for a lot. Another big pull is merchants want access to these trade routes. A good way to get access to these trade routes is to create them through a crusade, to solidify them through a crusade. Another thing is, kings wanted to support the church. Right? They think that this could be a get-rich-quick scheme. Right? That if they support this crusade, they send their people, they are part of this, that they could become even wealthier and more powerful of a kingdom. Right? You can gain land. Land a lot of times equals wealth and power. So to go fight for land could make you rich. It easily could. So you have a lot of people fighting for a lot of different reasons. Because I didn't even put up here a fourth big reason. It sounded fun. Right? We more recently have this idea that war is dangerous. War is tough. War is it's going to be awful, right? That really starts with World War I in a way, where you got people in 9-foot deep trenches for weeks on end next to rotting. It's just it's war is hell, right? Like, it's just awful. But that is more of a recent phenomenon. A lot of times when wars start, people are very excited. People are like, this could be great for me. This will just be awesome. So you also have peasants going that are like, this is gonna be fun. We're gonna go get the Holy Land. So you got a lot of people fighting for a lot of different reasons here. Alrighty. So Christian soldiers took back Jerusalem during the First Crusade. However, Muslims take back Jerusalem and keep it during the Second and Third Crusade. More crusades are fought, again, 9 to 10. However, Christians never fully regain the Holy Land. So, yes, they're going to fight for over 300 years. Yes, there's 9 to 10 different crusades over this. Christians take back Jerusalem during the first one, but never fully regain it during these crusades. So, in a way, they lost, right? Like, they didn't win what they set out to. They won a battle in the First Crusade. However, as far as by the time you're done with the Crusades, they still do not have Jerusalem. Now, why I sometimes say 10. There was a call for what it was called the Children's Crusade, with a bunch of kids that were going to go and fight in Jerusalem. Now, it was actually just a scheme So they go and they get all these kids and they're like, okay, you're going to get on these ships and we're going to take you to Jerusalem to go fight. And they're like, yay! And they get on the boats. Yeah, those were actually slave traders. So the boats went to a slave market, and all of those kids that were planning on going to fight in one of the Crusades were actually taken and sold into slavery. So that's why I say 9 to 10. The intention was there, but it didn't happen. So we had a lot of fun stuff here. A lot of fun stuff. Now, the effects of the Crusades, very, very important. Very, almost more important than the Crusades are the effects of the Crusades. So the Crusades brought cultural diffusion and introduced new ideas into Western Europe. Ideas that had previously been forgotten, previously left behind, are brought back. And this is huge, right? So first off, it increases the desire for luxury goods like silk, cotton, sugar, and spices. Previously, this had almost been lost upon Europe that all of these things exist, that you can have better things through trade, through cooperation with others. It introduced technology like the compass, the astrolabe, ship design, and gunpowder. Right? They show up to these crusades and they're learning. They're seeing what other empires have, what other religions have, technology-wise, that like, oh, that would be very beneficial. Also, it introduced the ideas like Arabic numbers, chemistry, algebra, and the telescope. Half of the world was living with all of this. Christianity is in this dark age in Europe. They show up to this crusade, and it's almost like a giant learning experience where they just are taken back by all of these advancements that they had basically forgot existed, that were done where they are. And it almost gives people hope again, and that they can go and they can also get these spices. They can also make cool ships. They can design things like they hadn't previously. Okay. Okay, so after the Crusades, learning increased and more people were educated as well. So instead of only hearing what your priest said about the Bible, you're also now going to have Greek ideas coming back, Roman ideas coming back, Islamic ideas, Chinese ideas, and learning is again going to increase. People are going to become more literate once again, thinking about things, questioning things, questioning authority, questioning your preconceived notions. They hadn't done that for hundreds of years in Europe. It's just whatever I was told I was going to do. I was going to blindly follow, blindly be obedient. That idea that there's more information out there, that you can become more educated and you can question things, comes back to Europe in large part thanks to the Crusades. That it reintroduced Europe to all of these ideas that they previously just kind of forgot about and kind of stopped caring about. It brings it back. There's other ideas out there. There's other things you can know. It's also going to, even when you guys aren't here, there's still constant announcements. Anyway, trade leads to a growth in cities. Cities become bigger and bigger and bigger. That's going to be what lets the Black Death spread. So while cities are growing and trade is growing, which is great, Europe wasn't quite ready for that population boom and quite ready for that many people living in one space. That overpopulation usually leads to disease, and that will be what helps the Black Plague spread. So the last thing here in conclusion, the role of religion in the Middle Ages is very, very important. I cannot understate that. Europeans both before and after the Middle Ages, it's dominated by the Christian church, and it will be for a while yet. This is Unit 3. We will also spend Unit 4, where Christianity is still the dominant power in Europe. It is still the most important driving factor. It will not be until the Enlightenment, though we're not there yet, that things change when it comes to this. The Crusades failed to secure Jerusalem from the Islamic Empire. However, these holy wars are going to start that fun cultural diffusion thing again. It's going to bring an end to these Middle Ages, these dark ages that had been plaguing Europe. It's going to re-energize, relearn Europe so that they are no longer this dark, illiterate group. It really, really brings them back to something that they needed. So, all right, that is the end of our notes for Monday, November 23rd, the Crusades. Tomorrow, you'll be watching a Mankind, the Story of Us video. And then have a wonderful, wonderful holiday, and we'll see what happens. Have a great time.